Hi, everyone. Welcome to our lecture on emergent writing for preschool. We've talked about children's need to see themselves as readers. Children also need to see themselves as writers. It's not about the adult being able to understand what a child has written on paper, or if it just looks like a bunch of squiggles and lines and dots and scribbles. The important understanding is that children are writing regardless what it looks like. And as they write, they are understanding the purpose and value of writing. They are gaining understanding that what they write down has a message or a meaning. There are many stages of writing. I know some of you have taken the art class already, and maybe you've studied Rhoda Kellogg's Stages of Artistic Development in Young Children. Emergent writing follows a similar pattern to what Rhoda Kellogg has researched in her work, studying children's artistic development around the world, but some argue that there are many more stages or phases of children's writing. And I've even heard one researcher claim to have identified 80 different stages of children's emergent writing. It really all starts with scribbles. Toddlers love to smash markers. Have you seen that happen? I have. They smash the markers and break the tip. This is all a stage of writing, and you can see here on the left, the image looks like scribbles and maybe even some letter-like forms, but mostly squiggles, and that's a toddler's writing. You can think of something more primitive than that, maybe a 9-month-old lightly marking one line on a paper with something. I always tell parents that if infants around 6 to 9 months old can hold an eating utensil, they can certainly hold a writing utensil. As children develop in their writing skills and their fine motor, they begin to separate writing and drawing and organized writing into lines, as you see on the right. Then by age 3, some children begin to distinguish writing from pictures and begin using pictures as a way to tell stories. This is the beginning of making meaning of print. When you see older toddlers and preschoolers drawing pictures and telling you, read my story from their picture is their story. That is their writing. We want to encourage this process. Children begin to recognize that people use marks to represent meaning, and it begins to show up in their artwork. Children's pictures become more intentional and often have an entire story that surrounds one stick figure or one squiggle or even one shape. The shape maybe resembles a human, but those pictures are really important. I want you to take some time to reflect on child development. Maybe stop the video here and respond to these 3 prompts. Reflect on what you know about individual differences in children. Think of the pies, the developmental domains: physical, intellectual, emotional, and social development. Since we don't have the chance to talk about it in class, I'm going to interject some thoughts for you to think about here. Hopefully, we all agree and understand how development is individual to each child. What I know and understand about child's physical development is that children develop from the trunk out, developing core muscles, which leads to developing those bigger leg muscles, upper arm muscles, and then the development of the fine motor muscles begin. And all development impacts other development and learning. So if a child still is developing large muscle movement, their small muscle movement isn't going to be developing maybe at the same rate as another child who has developed really large muscle movement, and now all they have to do is focus on their small muscle movement. Next, reflect on how you think individual differences influence children's development in writing. And then, what other circumstances or opportunities need to be present for children to become writers? So maybe jot some things down. The next phase in writing development, children begin to write their own names. Children's names are usually the first word that children learn to read and write. A child's name is very important to them. Children may begin to write mock words or write mock words and draw detailed pictures. 3 or 4-year-old children who have been exposed to writing in various ways become very interested in words other than their names. They may become interested in others' names, their friends' names, their family member names. They may want to use common words that they hear all the time around the house or at school. Children become really attracted to words and ideas that they hear often, and they may begin asking you to spell these common words, wanting to write them down. As you plan a writing center in the classroom, you will want to provide children's names, common words that children are interested in, and continue to add to these words as children's interest in words grow. Here are some writing examples. You can see on the left some marks that resemble letters, and then some things that are clearly letters that's a shape that looks like a E, a D, and an L. And then the picture on the right looks like possibly some type of label, maybe a name, and then a couple images on the bottom. Here's an example of letter strings. This particular letter string has numbers embedded in it also. It can be really tricky for some kids to distinguish between letters and numbers, but usually kids learn numerals before they learn graphemes. Graphemes are the written letter shape. Numerals are much more concrete and tangible than a letter. Numerals have a very identifiable quantity, and so some kids distinguish between letters and numbers easily, while some children get the two mixed up. And it's really typical. So if that's happening, it's a sign that you need to provide more opportunities for children to distinguish between the two. During the phase of development, phase 2, pictures are beginning to become more detailed. In this picture, you can see there's a lot going on. There's some squiggles that could be writing. It could be smoke in the air. It could be clouds. You can see this child definitely had a story to tell in their picture. Remember, children use pictures to tell and express their ideas. It can be a single object, or it can be a whole story depicted in one picture. It's important to have conversations with children about what they draw and write so they have an opportunity to verbalize what they are thinking. In phase 3, writing and drawing really come into full bloom. 4 and 5-year-old children are writing really for a variety of purposes and should have the opportunity to write. Writing may be in the form of journals or books. It may be in the form of notes. It may be labeling items or labeling their drawings. Children begin to understand why specific letters are selected to spell specific words. This probably looks really familiar. It kind of follows Rhoda Kellogg's stages of artistic development, but this is specifically about writing. This shows 12 different stages of writing, from scribbles all the way to whole sentences. Older preschoolers really begin to combine their strategies for writing. They may use early invented spelling, which means that they're using some of the sounds and words that they hear. What is the purpose of shared writing? Shared writing is a process teachers use on a regular basis to help children to understand how to write a particular kind of text and to provide them with a model piece of writing to copy or emulate. It involves a teacher producing some text on the board with input from the class. There's a video of shared writing in this week's module. Make sure and watch it. Shared writing scaffolds the writing task, and when done well, leads the child towards becoming a more reflective, confident, and skilled writer. When done very well, we engender more engaged writers who feel empowered and inspired to put pen to paper. Learning to form letters. Let's be really clear. Writing and penmanship are two different things. Children need to know and feel confident and comfortable in what they do. Focusing on letter formation can cause children to lose the meaning of writing. In preschool, we do not focus on penmanship. The research shows that children become competent writers when they spend more time practicing letter sounds and putting letter sounds to letter shapes in their writing. We want to model appropriate letter formation, talk about letter formation, but don't have children doing worksheets on letter formation. Again, provide good visual models, talk about what you're writing. Most importantly, the task of writing for purpose is what is the task of writing, and the purpose of writing is what is important. Avoid dot to dot and stencils. They don't teach letter formation. They don't help children distinguish writing from drawing. And worksheets that become tedious like homework have no place in a preschool, or I want to say second grade, up through second grade classroom. Writing should be enjoyable. It should communicate to children that writing is exciting.